सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अनोरणीयान् महतो महीयान् आत्मा गुहायां निहितोऽस्य जन्तोः तमक्रतुः पश्यति वीतशोकः धातुप्रसादात् महिमानमीशम्। In the other one it is Mahimanam Atmanah. So that is why I will increase the volume here. Let us see if you can hear me better now. Is this better now? Yes? Well, nobody is saying anything, so I am hoping everybody can hear. Okay. So, that's not a good sign. Can you hear me better now? Are you able to hear? Somebody online, please show some sign of life. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. So, we saw the metaphor of the cave, Guha. Don't forget. Even if you forget the cave, don't forget what? Sleeping. What is sleeping in the cave?
The bear.
The mountain lion. Correct. Which you cannot bear because it is the unconscious. The unbearable unconscious. Correct? And that's why it is difficult to so this bear is blocking some wild animal. I just said mountain lion, but doesn't matter. It is a mountain cave. It could be bear, it could be anything. The point is that it is sleeping. Sleeping means what? Latent, dormant. Meaning any time it can wake up. And then, as I said last time, what did I say? It looks confused. Why does it look confused? Because it did not order any delivery. Seeing you, it looks confused. It did not order any delivery. How come this person is here? Yeah. What is the delivery? Whatever cuisine, wherever you happen to come from. Yeah. So if you are Indian and you go into the cave, the lion will say, I did not order Indian cuisine. That's what it will say. So, that is where we stopped last time. And that means what? That means that this bear, this mountain lion, whatever this beast, is blocking Bhagavan from your view. So the cave is secretly populated. Secretly means you cannot see it. It is there. And it's blocking the vision of the glory of Bhagavan, which is actually you. So this is what we saw last time. And then what? Then we have the whole thing of darshan. So what is the darshan? Just like it happens in the temples in India, everything is dark, dark, dark. And there also they specially construct a small sanctum like a cave. They construct the sanctum on purpose, dark, and and the devata that is made is of black stone, also dark. And I say the pujari, the priest is from South India, also dark. So even though the priest is standing there, you don't see anything. You don't see neither Bhagavan nor the priest, nothing. And then what happens? na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam, when arati is done. And this little camphor light, we dare to show to the light of all lights, because of whom this camphor light is visible. And we say, please let this camphor light, which symbolizes knowledge, shine the light in the cave of my heart, in the cave of my intellect, so that I am able to see Bhagavan unimpeded by raga dveshas and the unconscious. Last time we had a very elaborate discussion of the cave. Stalactite, remember?
Yes.
Stalagmite, mountain lion, bat, scorpions, all the raga dveshas, everything, doubts, despair, everything. And then there is no room for Bhagavan and all these to be sitting parallelly. In fact, as soon as Bhagavan is seen, all these disappear. It's a catch-22. In order to see Bhagavan, all these have to be suspended, and then as soon as Bhagavan is seen, all these disappear. Both are true. So therefore here, that which is bigger than the biggest, smaller than the smallest, and what? That which is residing, abiding in the cave, that is your heart. That is what this Bhagavan is. Tam Isham Atmanam Pashyati. Sees. Sees means knows, understands. So first there is a clearing of the underbrush of the raga dveshas. You have to take the lawnmower of a disciplined life and then go vroom 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 and vacuum up the underbrush of raga dveshas, and then you clear out the things. The mountain lion is woken up to this noise of the lawnmower. Can't be called lawnmower, this big underbrush eater. And then what does it do? It runs away. It runs away. So, and then the light of knowledge shines, and then what does it do? It dispels this darkness. And as I said last time, the darkness is not a problem, because if the darkness is there, you need light. So naturally, if you hear light means what? Vedanta classes. So you are sitting in the Vedanta classes, still Bhagavan is not seen means what? Then you have to pay attention to the housekeeping in the cave. Why? Because even though the light of knowledge is shining, there are other things blocking the vision. So therefore, little housekeeping, trimming, pruning, cutting, telling mountain lion to go away, or giving it a sedative, anything, so that it is not coming in the way of your darshan. That needs to be done. So after this is done, what happens? Pashyati, sees, understands this person. Now this is all in the form of a darshan. Darshan means a special vision of something very holy. That is the meaning of the word darshan. A view. So here darshan of what? You. Who is this you? Tam Isham. That Ishvara is you. So darshan of you as Ishvara. So if I dress up as Rama, Lord Rama, or Goddess Sita, and wear a crown and then go like that and stand in front of the mirror, is that what is darshan? No. That's not, we are not talking of outer darshan. This is a inner darshan of your own glory, unimpeded by the unconscious and the flurry of desires that are like these, what are those things called? There is this bushy thing and you go foo and then all the seeds go dandelion. Yes. So the desires are like very dandy, like the dandelion. See, lion also came in, so correct. So, so these desires, what do? They proliferate. So one foo, and then you have 100 dandelion bushes, and each one has one foo, and then you have hundreds or thousands of dandelion bushes, not bushes, whatever they are, weeds. And so therefore, this is what the desires are like. They don't take time to proliferate. So I need, I need to be what? Akratuhu. That is the next word here. That is the necessary and sufficient condition. The necessary and sufficient condition is the vidya, but an important necessary condition is akratuhu, means what? free of the pressure of desires. I won't say free of desires, even though that's exactly what the meaning, translated meaning is. But then if you read the translation, you don't get, the essence of it. So akratuhu means what?
One who doesn't do rituals.
Yeah. One who
Doesn't do rituals.
doesn't do rituals. That is really the meaning. Kratu means ritual. Akratuhu means the one who refuses to do ritual. What kind of rituals? Rituals to fulfill desires. Yeah, that is what is akratuhu. Meaning, I have graduated from going to Bhagavan with small lists. You have shopping list, grocery list, and wish list for the day, which includes the shopping list and the grocery list also. So this whole list you make, and in fact we do that. We make a list of people to pray for and put them in front of Bhagavan. And then what? That's okay, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for those people. But then many times what people do is that they put all their lists and then they put it in front of Bhagavan. Why? Because they are unable to fulfill it themselves. That is also wonderful, because it shows that I am helpless and Bhagavan is in charge, so I am dedicating all my desires to Bhagavan. That is Karma Yoga. But here we are not talking of Karma Yoga, we are talking of one who is graduating from Karma Yoga. And what happens here? Here the person is not interested in fulfilling small things. Yeah. The person wants to go for the big thing. And in order to go for the big thing, what do you have to do? You have to let go of the small things. But why can't I have both? What to say? If you have the big thing, isn't the small thing included? Ayyo Rama. This is what we have to understand. No, but you're telling me to go for the big thing? Yes. That means I have to give up the small thing? Yes. But then you're saying the small is included. Yes, it is included. If it is included, why you have to give it up? I'll talk to you after class. That's all I have to say. Set up a special appointment. If you cannot understand that the small is included in the big, that limited is included in the limitless, and in order to fathom the limitless as yourself, you have to let go of the focus on the limited, which is the focus on anatma, which is always outside of you, because you are not limited. So if you don't understand this, make a special appointment with me later on. That's all I have to say. So the small is included in the big. So, but I have to. It's a strategic way of letting go of the small in order to go for the big. And then the small comes. What you have let go of automatically comes back. This is what the whole thing is. This is what we have seen repeatedly. And the whole thing is very beautiful, because akratuhu means the one who has so much faith in Bhagavan, so much shraddha, that you know what to give me. Whether it is today or in my life, or it is tomorrow, or it is to do with my loved ones, you know what to give me. So I am dumbfounded standing in front of you. I am speechless, because I don't know what to ask, because you know best what to give me. And this is what we see in the Kaushitaki Upanishad. There is one very noble and just king who has been an exemplary ruler. Then he grows old and dies and goes straight to heaven. And Indra himself, usually he sends some people, to get the people if they are low-lying people, who've done few good things, but not really too many. But Indra himself goes and receives him at the gate, because he is so special. And he says, because you have led such a wonderful life, O king, I want to give you a present, a boon, a gift. Please choose what you want. And Pratardhana thinks. And what does he say? He says, you give me what you will choose for yourself. Yeah, you be in my place, and what you will choose for yourself, you please give that to me. It's like going to a fancy restaurant. Everything is in French, the menu. You don't understand if you're ordering a ox or a horse or what you're ordering, you don't know. And then you don't want to look bad in front of your friend who has invited you. So what do you say? I'll have what you are having. Because I don't know, I can't even read the menu. And similarly here, as a jiva, I can't read my karmic menu of what's on it. Menu means karma, yeah. Today 2 biffs, and tomorrow 1 disappointment, day after tomorrow backache, 2 days after tomorrow headache, and then what? And then something or the other, this is the, so the menu, the restaurant is the kshetra, this field, dharma kshetra, also Kurukshetra. The restaurant is the kshetra, and your table is a stable place where your karma phala in the form of various dishes are being dished out, and the menu is always in a foreign language. You cannot see it. You cannot see it, much less understand and order from it. You are just given the menu. It's all a set menu. So sometimes you go to the restaurant, you can't choose. It's a set menu. But still, even though they tell you it's a set menu, they give you the menu. What's the idea? I don't know. But so just like that, here also Chitragupta comes. He is the usher, He is the one who is leading you to your table, and then what? Gives you the menu. Do I have any choices? No. First this comes, then that comes. But what are these things? Wait and watch. It will come. The kitchen is that way. Keep looking there. That's all it is. You wait and watch. Whatever comes, you have to say Swaha. You have to take it in. So this being the case, you're sitting there, you don't know what to order. Supposedly there is a semblance of choice, but what choice is this when you cannot even make out what is on the menu, And it's a set menu, so it's all just set to fool you into thinking that there is a choice. This is the life of a jiva. Be ready to be fooled, since when? On the day of birth. Yeah. First day, the baby cannot even see properly. It's all just, hazy. And takes one look. This is the Jagat. Oh my God! And these terrifying looking people are my parents. And they're making faces. They are so huge. And why am I here? What brought me here? Well, that's what is listed on the menu. What brought you here? But I can't read it. Doesn't matter. You will still be given a stomach full of karma phala. What's on the menu is fruit. What kind of fruit? Karma phala. Yes. So you are a fruitarian. Karma, fruits of karma is what's on the menu. And so, it is of great intelligence to say, I don't know what I'm in for. I don't know what I should ask. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I should have. You please choose for me what the best thing you would choose for yourself. So Pratardana says that to Indra, and Indra is very happy. And Indra says, I will tell you the most wonderful thing that I chose is self-knowledge. And I will give you instruction on this self-knowledge. And he teaches him right then and there, and the teaching is so beautiful. Sometimes we have to study this Upanishad. And there he says that not a hair on the head is disturbed of the person of knowledge. Even if that person was to indulge in matricide or patricide, they don't get any effect of karma. Meaning that they are incapable of such behavior, so that is not even an issue. But the whole thing is they are protected from everything. And so this knowledge is given to him. And here too, akratuhu means the one who doesn't need to look at the menu. That is akratuhu. What's in the menu for the day? What's in the menu for my life? What is being dished out today? What kind of fruits? I'm going to have exotic fruits, like what is that? Jackfruit? Or I'm going to have some, predictable fruit, apple a day? Or I'm going to have some funny fruit, durian, Durian is a acquired taste. Yeah. Durian means it's some kind of a South Asian fruit from which even has the power to test the patience of a sadhu. Yes. Thich Nhat Hanh writes about this in his book, and he said that he was leading a meditation session when somebody put a dish of durian. Somebody came late for the meditation, and then they set this dish, and he had to stop the meditation and ask for it to be taken away. The smell was overpowering the whole meditation hall. Therefore, I keep saying that its name is not durian, it is duriya. Duriya means distance. So you have to keep a distance from this fruit. So whether that's on my karma, kind of a love-hate relationship with this funny, smelly fruit. I like it, but I don't like the smell, and I like it, but my loved one doesn't like it. What is this? But karma is like this, unpredictable. Sometimes the fruit comes, you don't know how to eat. Whether to eat the seed and spit out the thing, sometimes you have to do that. And you don't know how to eat it, you don't know, no instructions, nothing. Everything just comes on a plate. Mostly it's a mishmash of bitter and sweet and astringent and really pungent and little bit of sweet. That's why the bird, which bird? Yeah, the berryholic bird goes and keeps tasting the berries. Here also that's what you're doing. The bird is doing on the tree. You have a napkin around your neck, and you have cutlery and crockery, and you pretend to be civilized. That's all. You're doing the same thing that the bird is doing. You're after the sweet fruit. That's all it is. And so here too, the one who is akratu goes in the restaurant because there is no choice. This one, what is that? Chitragupta, the one who writes the karma, he is the usher. He makes sure that you go and you sit at the table. He makes sure that you are able to what? You are able to order and all these things. And then what do you say? You say, I have appointed Bhagavan to choose my menu. Oh Gupta ji. And then what? I don't need to look at the menu. I'm just going to sit here and do japa and be prayerful. So whenever it is time, you bring whatever it is, whatever I can eat, I will eat, and and then I will just wait. When I'm not able to eat anymore, I know that I'm kicked out of the restaurant. That is what I know. And so like this, the akratahu means the one who has given up agency in trying to control one's life, trying to control the spin of karma, trying to control the outcomes of your own action and the actions of others. That is what akratuhu means. See how different it is than to just look at the translation. If you look at the translation, oh, desireless person, that's all. But all this whole discussion is involved. That's why we need the teaching. So tam akratuhu pashyati. Drashtva means having seen, pashyati, but drashtva means having seen, vihita shoko bhavati, vigataha shokaha yasmat, from whom all sorrow has departed. When will the sorrow depart? When the cave is enlightened. Because that sorrow is darkness, and it's all these stalactites, stalagmites, everything. A swamp in the cave is the sorrow. And this bright sunlight of knowledge evaporates the water, evaporates this swampy water, makes it go away. How? Because all sorrow comes from a sense of not being able to control. Feeling out of control, not being able to control your surroundings, yourself, your body, your mind, whatever it is, whatever things you consider yours, your significant other, all these things lead to sorrow. Sorrow is also a result of the despair of not being able to fulfill your desires. That's also there. You try, fail, fail. So it's a failed person with a sense of failure, and this sense of failure gives dejection. But the sorrow is as though, why? Because I am untouched by sorrow, correct? So the I being untouched by sorrow, so sorrow is an interloper, an impostor of sorts. It's a shadow. So the light of knowledge, what does it do? It makes this shady sorrow, run and disappear or run away completely. So the sorrow being there means what? It is not here to stay. It is there as an offspring of ignorance and unfulfilled desire. And once the desires are given to Bhagavan, and so I am not trying to control my own life, I am not trying to control other people's lives connected to me. I am studying and being lighter and lighter in terms of this whole imagery of ignorance as darkness. The cave is getting lighter and lighter. So where is the place for limitations? All of them are chased away. So akratuhu pashyati, you can take drashtva vita shoko bhavati, or akratuhu pashyati and vita shokaha bhavati, both. So akratuhu vita shokaha pashyati, so the one who is relatively cheerful, relatively free of sorrow, relatively ready to not believe the sorrow as a final, ultimate, what is that? Desperate, definition of the self. Sorrow is not a definition of the self. Anger is not a definition of the self. And so, the one who is ready to believe that this is not really me, and I am okay because I am in the hands of Bhagavan and I am more or less cheerful, what is that person? Vita shokaha, relatively, and then what? Akratuhu also, and then pashyati, sees Bhagavan. How? Dhatuhu prasada, through this very Bhagavan that into whom one has resorted, in whom one has taken refuge, that Bhagavan gives prasad. What is the prasad? The prasad of you seeing yourself exactly how you are. Very nice, wonderful prasad. That's why in India, when you go, the prasads are always round. Yeah, laddu, and these round things are given. Simply because the round things symbolize wholeness and the nature of yourself. So really speaking, you go to mandir, you go to the temple and you receive something round. Feels good also, and you go to sometimes these rich and famous temples, Tirupati. Tirupati means it is huge and it's the richest temple really. And there, they have, you can see when you are perambulating, there is a certain area with grill which is open to the floor below, the basement. And there they have these big sieves, and 2-3 people have to hold this sieve. It's so big and heavy, and all the money that they put in the offering are being sieved, and most of the time people could put gold there. So they have to separate the gold and the silver and the coins and everything. And then in another area, you see them making the laddus. This laddu is famous. It's just, there are 3 ingredients: ghee, sugar, and more ghee. Okay, it's a big ball of tasty calories. Yeah, big caloric ball of taste. It's very tasty. And then I don't know how it is now, but in the olden times, you could leave it not even in the fridge. You could leave it on the counter for 6 weeks and nothing would happen to it, because it is got all kinds of natural preservatives. It's made in such a way that the ghee, nothing goes bad. So if you go to the famous temple, you get such a big ball, correct? And our chota temple, small one. Because that's all they can afford. Depends on the quote unquote congregations, the devotees, Yeah. So here also, when you come to Eugene, small ones. We make tiny ones and give, So like this, the wholeness, it symbolizes wholeness. So then that is the prasada. The prasada which is given even in the form of sweets, when you go to the temple, symbolizes what it stands for. So that prasada, you just say aha and you say swaha, finished, correct? But this prasada is actually you. So, there is one song, I have the whole world in the palm of my hand or something like that. Here I have myself in the palm of my hand. So that which can never be objectified is objectified on purpose, made sweet, put a lot of sugar syrup in it and made nice and round and given to you in the hand, and you say, oh, this is prasad, and very reverentially you touch it to your eyes, touch it to your forehead and then eat, correct? So this is a metaphor for assimilating that wholeness and the oneness of who you really are. And so this prasad came from where? From Bhagavan. Naturally, where else will it come from? It came from Bhagavan. And then what about the wholeness? That also comes from Bhagavan. That clarity also comes from Bhagavan. But I need Guru, comes from Bhagavan. But I need to go to class, comes from Bhagavan. And then what? But I need to, listen, comes from Bhagavan. I am unable to listen. Well, that doesn't come from Bhagavan. That is called, what is that? That is called Atma Prasad. Yeah, that is the prasad you give yourself. Yeah. So this ball of sweetness, in order to assimilate, you have to be hungry, correct? You can't eat Tirupati laddu when you have had a full meal. So you have to be hungry and you have to desire, I want only laddu. I don't want a cake. I don't want a cheesecake. What else is there? I don't want all these other things. What is that place? That Sweet Life. Yeah. So I don't want all these other things. What I want is laddu means wholeness. Okay? Yeah. Don't say laddu. That's not what I want. Wholeness. Laddu symbolizes Purnatvam. So I want only this. So I let go of the cheesecake, I let go of the cookies and all these things, and then and hone in on the laddu, correct? So that is how I will be ready to receive the prasad. And then I don't argue with the pujari, the priest. The priest gives laddu, I say, no, I want that other thing. No, I take it, correct? I take what comes and then I am able to assimilate this. So I have to be hungry, I have to be in the right state of mind, because even if you are hungry, but if you are hungry but you are not able to, you are distracted, then also you won't be able to eat. If you are hungry and very agitated, then also you won't be able to eat, correct? Yeah. So therefore what? So therefore I have to be hungry, I have to be ready to, I should know what I want, what I am hungry for. And I should know that only laddu will fill this hunger, this emptiness, this lack. Only the knowledge of wholeness will fill this lack. Because this lack is centered on I, laddu is also centered on I, because laddu is equal to what? Self-knowledge. Yeah, laddu centered on I, and the lack is also centered on I. So I know what I want, I wait for what I want, I go after what I want. I have to be hungry for it. What is that hunger? Jijnasa, desire to know. I have to be hungry for it, and I should have single-minded focus. What is that? Samadhanam. Then there is two prasads shaking hand. One is dhatuhu prasada. What is dhatu prasada? Dhatu prasada means the Bhagavan's blessing for you to gain this darshan. The special darshan of the inner laddu. The inner wholeness, that is you. The inner sweetness, that is you. And then what? Your own prasada, to allow that wholeness, both of them should shake hands. Yeah, namaste. That's correct. That's what it is. You know, both of them should shake hands. In between this handshake, one more hand comes. What is that hand? Guru Prasada. What is Guru Prasada? That you allow yourself for, to be taught, that you have a teacher in your life and that teacher is able to teach and you are able to connect to that teacher and learn. That's a great prasada. So these three prasadas here are talked about as Dhatu Prasada. And because of this, what happens? Mahimanam Atmanaha Mahimanam Isham Pashyanti Dhiraha. So the knowledgeable ones, the ones of wisdom, see this as Bhagavan, see this Bhagavan as themselves, and and are freed of sorrow. That is what we have to understand. Alright. The last mantra of this chapter, it's a good place to leave it. So, Vedahametam ajaram puranam
Vedahametam ajaram puranam
Sarvatmanam sarvagatam vibhutvat
Sarvagatam
No, doesn't matter, we'll say it again. Sarvatmanam sarvagatam vibhutvat
Sarvatmanam sarvagatam vibhutvat
Janma nirodham pravadanti yasya
Janma nirodham pravadanti yasya
Brahmavadino hi pravadanti nityam.
Brahmavadino hi pravadanti nityam.
Yeah. So here in the last mantra, 20th one, the knowledge took place, correct? Why? Because tam akratahu pashyati. Pashyati means sees, understands. And then in this one, the person of wisdom is saying something. What are they saying? Veda aham. I know. Etam Veda. First it was tam. Tam means somebody who is remote. Tam isham pashyati, and that tam means that one becomes etam, this one. So that one I know now as this one. So my identity has been restructured. Before I thought I was this sad little fellow, and then now I know that one which is the truly limitless one, the truly grand conscious being, as this one who I first thought was a lowly, sad, mad, bad fellow. So, tam etam Veda aham etam. And this is also there in the Purusha Sukta. Vedaham etam purusham mahantam. I know this great Purusha as myself. That is what the sage declares. Here also, same thing. Veda aham etam. So that tam, which was that, has now become this. So I know that as this, meaning I know that Bhagavan which I thought was so far away, unsure of how to connect, and now I have seen this Bhagavan as myself. And who is this? The person of knowledge here, the sage, is defining Bhagavan. Ajaram. Ajaram means never, the one who gets old. Jara means geriatry. That's how you remember. Yeah. Ajara means what? No wrinkles. No wrinkles in Atma. No grey hairs in Atma. Why? Because Atma is hairless. Oh, Atma is bald. Bald also is basically saying no hair. So what we are trying to say is Atma is free of form. If it's free of form and if it is free of birth, it cannot grow old. Correct? Yeah. That which is free of form, forget even birth. That which is free of form, can it have old age? No. Because old age, in order to show old age, you need to have a minimum requirement, hair and skin. Correct? Yeah. Those two you need. Of course, teeth and all later on, teeth or lack thereof, all these, things later on they come. But minimum you need hair and skin to show old age. But here, this is a formless being, and this formless consciousness cannot grow old. Correct? So, Veda Aham Etam, who is this? Ajaram. Ajaram Veda, the one who is incapable of growing old. Wow, that is me? Yes, that is you. Veda Aham Etam Ajaram. And then what happens? So, Ajaram means what? Ajaram means never grows old, ever fresh, ever new. But again, Puranam, ever new means just now born? No. Puranam, what is Puranam? Always the same, as old as the hills. As old as the hills. Puranam. Pura eva navaha iti. Pura means was there before. Pura na. The na stands for Nava. Nava means what? Now. Yeah, new. Nava you now know as new. Nava, new, now. And then Pura means before. So Atma was there once upon a time? Yes. Atma is there now? Yes. Same Atma? Yes. Then and now? Yes. That's why we don't say then and now, we just say Zen, which is which is both then and now, which is the word for then and now together. Okay, so then what? Puranam. And then this Atma is just belonging to me? No, Sarvatmanam. Sarvatma means the Atma of not just me, everyone. How many Atmas? One. So that one Atma, the I in me, is the same as the I in you to the power of, how many ever billions of people are on the planet. There is only one I. And that I is in me, is in you, is in everyone, and is free of form, free of old age, and is ever fresh, ever new, but as ancient and timeless. Time has come from this ancient one. It precedes time even. So that shows how old it is. Oh, but it is free of wrinkles and it is ever new. And it is the truth of all beings. Sarvatma means truth of all beings. Sarvatmanam. And then what? Sarvagatam. All pervasive. Because it cannot be the truth of all beings if it's just in one being and if it's just located in one place. So Ajaram means free of time, and Sarvatmanam, Sarvagatam means free of space. You cannot say where is Atma located, where is Bhagavan located. So therefore, you have to say what? You have to say that there is no location because it is all pervasive. That which is everywhere at all times and in everything, as everything, that I know. This sage is declaring now at the end and closing the chapter with that. Vibhutvat. Vibhu means vividham bhavati. How? Because I know that this Bhagavan has as though become many without undergoing any change. That is the primary thing. Without undergoing any change, this Bhagavan has as though become many. Vibhu, Prabhu, same thing. What is Bhu? To be. Bhu means to be. So Prabhu prakarshena bhavati iti Prabhu, vividham bhavati iti Vibhu, same meaning. That which has quote unquote become many or manifests itself as many without undergoing any change. Just like clay manifests as pot, lid, Krishna figurine, etc., jar, jug, without undergoing any change. You cannot say clay has become pot. No. Clay is clay. And similarly, gold and ornament. So the gold without undergoing any change has quote unquote become earring, nose ring, toe ring, bracelet and necklace, everything. but the shine of all of them, the weight of all of them, the color of all of them belongs to gold. So like this, Vibhu means all pervasive, has manifest as many things without becoming any one thing. Janma Nirodham, very important this one. Janma Nirodham means the one who is, Nirodha means stopped. So for whom birth has been stopped means what? Birthless. Of course, old age means, of course, free of old age, of course, should already mean birthless. But it is given there for added emphasis, because this is what the jiva is afraid of. Repeated cycles in samsara. There are so many cycles, and this cycle, if one thinks, I am not able to, do this, and then what? Next life again is there. More karma, the menu will be there again, and the table is already set for you in the next life. And so this being the definition of samsara, this pain which is life after life, therefore this knowledge becomes very imperative to gain. And what is the impetus here? The impetus is to not have any more lives of constant pain. Let this be the last life. So therefore this Janma Nirodha is emphasized here, not so much as a definition of Atma or Bhagavan, but as something to allure people to study this. And that is why it is mentioned over here. Janma Nirodha means the one which stops the cycles, which is free of the cycles of birth and death, life after life. And Janma Nirodham Pravadanti Yasya, the sages, declare. Who? Brahmavadinaha. So the knowers of Brahman, who are the sages here, Brahmavadin, so the ones who know Brahman, the ones who know the truth of this, Pravadanti means declare again and again. What do they declare? They declare this being as the truth of oneself, as free of old age, free of space, free of time, free of birth, all pervasive, and the truth of everything, and free of being any one thing at any one time, Sarvatma. This is what the Brahmavadins declare. And what else do they say? Brahmavadinaha hi pravadanti nityam. Nityam means what? This free of birth when? All the time. Yeah, not that just free of one cycle of birth, because that person spent it in heaven and after that came back again. No. All the time free of old age, all the time free of disease, all the time free of smallness, all the time free of that. Nityam should go with everything. Nityam Vibhuhu, Nityam Prabhuhu, Nityam what? What is the Ajaraha? Nityam Puranaha. All that Nityam should go with everything. Nityam Janma Nirodhaha. So free of birth, free of death, free of form, free of space, free of time, and most importantly, free of sorrow. And this freedom alone is what is the truth of the I. And here the sage captures the whole, what is its name, the essence of the third chapter in the last mantra. It also serves as what is called Phalashruti. Phalashruti means the declaration at the end of something. And what is the declaration? The declaration here is of something wonderful that is gained as a result of this knowledge. That is what is called Phalashruti. A different kind of phala. Not the same karma phala, but a different kind of phala. What is this phala here? What do I get out of this knowledge? Because, the person who is pursuing this knowledge is in the process of knowing, and so to encourage this person and to give them some incentive, this is what is declared. Yeah. So this is the Phalashruti, and this Phalashruti closes chapter 3. Chapter 4 is wonderful. It's just fantastic. And but before that, I will introduce a little bit of chapter 4. But before that, chapter 3 was also one very nice, and had a lot of explained in great detail a lot of the subtle nuances of the Tat Pada Vichara. What is Bhagavan? It was chapter 3 was all Tat Pada Vichara, what is Bhagavan, etc. And then, chapter 4 is more about Asi, what is Asi, how is I equal to Bhagavan. All the doubts are dismissed in chapter 4. Very wonderful, very important chapter, and talks also more closely about the nuances of creation, Maya, and it is one of the few Upanishads that introduces Maya. Maya is not a word that is very easily found in the Upanishad, but in this Upanishad it is there. It makes a difference between Maya and Mayin. Mayin means the one who has control of the Maya. And this knowledge, this power, this Shakti, the one who wields, the wielder of Maya is called Mayin. And the very famous mantra comes in chapter 4, Mayam tu prakritim vidyat mayinam tu maheshwaram. This Maheshwara, Ishvara is Mayin, and Prakriti, nature, the material, is Maya. Very beautiful, very, very gorgeous chapter. But we will not be starting it today, and we will in fact be starting it next month after I come back. I have some travels coming up, so this will be the last Shvetashvatara class. Tomorrow Kathopanishad class is there, not the Bhashya one, but the other one. What is that one? No Bhashya one, because again, what's the point of stopping like this? So tomorrow 6 o'clock class is there, and then that will be the last Kathopanishad class. And then when I come back from my travels, we will resume both of them. It will probably be, end of June or beginning of July. I will let you know. We will let all of you know. So that is what. So we will close here with this on this wonderful note. I will say the closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Vashishyate. Om
Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions are there? Nowadays nobody is having questions. Okay, any questions here? Yes.
Well, I still have a lot of problems saying you know what's best to give me. And that's my history. And that's the same as what comes is.
Yeah, say it.
So I can just...
Yeah, that's all. Because you can either say what comes is supposed to come, or you can say you know what to give me. Doesn't matter.
And as soon as you say you know what to give me, it causes for me a rupture, a split.
Yeah, you don't have to do that right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you can just give the list and say, give me this, this, this. And if you can't give me this, no, but listen to the whole thing. Please give me this, this, this. I think this is what I want. And if I can't get it, please give me the strength to accept what is. That's all. You can pray like that.
No. I don't want to.
Okay, that's fine.
But to live my life,
Yeah,
making a step and saying that's a step that happened.
yeah.
This is the next.
This is what, this is the
happening.
next. Yeah. Just being with
That
one.
for me
That's good. Whatever
is
speaks.
clear.
Whatever speaks to you. Yeah.
Except that it also means when I walk in there, that for me is a split.
It's okay.
Is that Catholicism?
Yeah. That's why when we say Catholic, it's always in the present continuous, recovering. It's never recovered, that is what it is. So it's a process.
Okay, I have
It's
my
a
little joke
process.
about that. I used to think I was a recovered Catholic, and then I realized that they recovered chairs.
Ah,
That's my private thought.
yeah. No more, because now you have shared it.
I thought I was so free for a moment there.
Yeah, but it's true. It's true. It's a process. It's a process. Yeah. It's a process. We can't hurry up. We cannot let a flower, we cannot force a flower to blossom when it is not ready. So you have to wait for it. First day it is a tight bud, and then next day you don't see anything, no change. What are you doing? And don't get frostbitten. Come on, flower. No, I won't. I can't. And then then the next day it is a little looser, perhaps, little better. Then finally it opens. But then now, if you see that time lapse photography, it looks so gorgeous. It feels like it's happening in a split second, but it's not. They have to take 10 days of frames to do this. It's a process. You are blossoming. You can't but blossom. Yeah, that is your destiny. That is your nature, and that is what is the inevitable effect of studying Vedanta. So I'm not worried. Yeah. Okay.